I'm in South Philly and I just walked out of Esposito's Porchetta with a couple pounds of porchetta. In Italy is very, very important. So it can be for celebration. It can be found honestly day to day at the ubiquitous white van vendors along the side of the road. Porchetta is a whole pig that's been completely deboned, seasoned, and it's rolled up, stitched, and roasted completely whole. And you get this amazing combination of flavors and fatty and crunchy and salty and delicious. What you really have to understand is the mastery of butchery in Italy, especially in Norcia, a town near where I'm from. Norcinerias, or Norcinos, the guys that work at them, in medieval times, they were actually tasked with minor surgery because they had such an intimate knowledge of butchery. Same thing, butchery and surgery, right? So I'm gonna take you to Santa Maria degli Angeli, where I'm from, to an expert master butcher named Antonello, who's gonna show you how to make porchetta. This particular kitchen is in Costano, which is just nearby and has been known for centuries for their porchetta. In fact, every August they have a 9-day festival of the porchetta where they celebrate the history and the tradition that they've been practicing for centuries. The butcher here is Antonello. Matteo and Antonello are of the Porcellino Divino in Santa Maria, my hometown in Italy, and that shop sells porchetta and salumi and other traditional Umbrian sort of delights. Apprenticeship is still very important in Italy, so you'll have apprentices that study for years for their craft. Giacomo, the apprentice here, is in the background, and you'll hear some banter, and we'll hear more from him later. In a pinch, porchetta can be made with just a side or even a belly, but really it's not ideal.
No, il maiale, no, ti dicono tutti.
He's got a point, right? If you're gonna do it at home, get about a 10-pound pork belly with the skin on from your butcher, and then prepare it the same way. Porchetta is popular in different regions of Italy. Rome may be where it originated, and each region will do their seasoning and their process slightly differently, but in general the process is exactly the same. Incidentally, it's likely that this barbecue tradition was exported to Mexico by Christopher Columbus. These little tips that masters learn over years and years of practice are really the difference between something truly exceptional and just okay. Really, almost nothing is wasted. The feet get thrown away or given to the dogs, but for the most part, everything goes back into the pig. The head is, of course, a popular delicacy that's often kept and eaten. The breed of pig used is actually the same as the breed in the US. It's called a large white, although the Italian one has been bred to have especially large rear legs for prosciutto. There was a joke here about scapulas and bachelors and getting married, but I'm not going to try to translate it for you. For whatever reason, Italians don't cook pork ribs the way American barbecue does. It's really hard to convey the mastery here. He makes it look so easy, and he deboned this entire pig in probably under an hour, but there's just so much precision involved and so much knowledge. You can see how by cutting precisely along the bone, very, very little meat is wasted. And with that, all the bones are gone. Now, a common misconception is that the spit stick goes in last. Actually, that goes in pretty much right now, because then everything else gets wrapped around it. As gross as this might look to some people, it's actually a very sanitary process. Everything is really clean, and then the last step before it gets seasoned and stitched up is another nice cleaning with fresh water. Incidentally,
If anyone is looking for an Italian groom or a young butcher shop employee, Giacomo would like to come to the United States. So this first lacing process is interesting because these stitches are going to allow him to pull the structure of the pig back together to make it nice and tight, rather than just stitching it closed along the bottom. By the way, the skin is totally edible. It gets to be crunchy, and you don't really want too much of it in your sandwich or in your meat, but just the right amount is perfect. This is Italy after all, so there was heavy political discourse going on while this pig was getting laced up. So now the seasoning. Antonello grinds his garlic up fine with a little bit of white wine in it. Lots of salt is important, and the ratio for that's coming right up. This wild fennel is sort of the key ingredient for the Umbrian version of porchetta. With regards to the liver, whether or not it should be cooked ahead of time is sort of a point of debate. Antonello prefers to put it in raw because it's going to be cooked during the cooking process anyway. In Umbria we don't do it, but some regions use dried chili peppers for seasoning. So this is the first step in the stitching process, and it's the one most people would think of when you essentially close the belly back up. But the really important one is using those threads from before to pull the structure back to the pig and keep it nice and tight so it cooks really evenly and keeps all the flavors and juices all together. And the last step is to poke a bunch of holes in the body. This prevents the body from blowing up from gases in juices inside, and then it also prevents the skin from bubbling and exploding. They want the skin to stay mostly intact. This is again a point of experience. When he has a more fatty pig, he doesn't put as much water in the tray because the fat kind of provides that buffer. Traditionally, wood is used for the fire, but they use electric ovens because they feel like it gives them a much more consistent, better product. So this guy will come out, get sliced up, a sprinkle of salt, be served on a simple roll, and be the perfect sandwich.